Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's quick tip. I'm Chris. I'm here with Mike, and today we'll be looking at how to set up a cutter for the very first time in Ergosoft. So, Mike, let's say I'm an Ergosoft user. I've never used cutting before. Maybe I have a print and cut device. Maybe I just bought a new flatbed cutter. What are the very first steps I need to do to get things going?
Thanks, Chris. The first things you need to do is set up a cut environment and a cut queue. These are similar to a print environment, but they're for cutting. So you need to go to the cut environment manager. In Ergosoft, if you don't have the cut environment manager visible, you go to view, you go to tools, and then you go to cut environment. And that will pop up this little window here so you can see your cut environments. So we're going to go to cut environment manager and we're going to add one. And then we're going to do add queue. And then in here, you find your driver for whatever cutter you have. Today, we're going to just use the DXF driver. Yeah, Ergosoft DXF driver. It's useful for lots of different devices. For instance, if your cutter's not on the list, you can output a DXF and possibly use that for your cutter.
Okay, so this is a combination of your print and cut devices. So for anyone currently using Ergosoft, if you own a print and cut device and you have a license for that printer, the cutting piece of it is already included. And then if you are adding a flatbed cutter, I just want everyone to know that is going to require an additional license from Ergosoft. So contact us for pricing information and we'll get you squared away.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So we're going to add this DXF output. So we'll just hit next. You can leave the port and the spool locations alone if you would like, but the port is important because that's where the files are going to go when they're generated. So wherever that is, normally on a server or on the hard drive of your cutter, just so they're accessible. So you can set that here. Hit next. We'll give it a name. DXF output sounds good. And the queue name, we'll leave Ergosoft DXF output. And we'll hit finish. Now in here, you're going to have different settings. So different cutters will have different settings. Some cutters might have a lot more options. Some might have less options. Um, for instance, marks, how large the marks are. Some cutters have square, some have round, some have both options for marks. Distance between marks, generating marks around the images. All of these are options that are going to vary between cutters. But for the DXF output, it's pretty basic, so there's not a ton of options in here. One thing that you can do if you want is we have a cutter device here, and then you have your name for your cut queue. So the cut queue is actually Ergosoft DXF output, right? So you could have a cut environment is maybe the cut dots are 24 inches apart, and you could have another one that they're 12 inches apart, and maybe you could have another one where they're square, but they could all use the same output device. They could all use the one cutter and just output to the same folder. So that way you can have multiple different options just by selecting a different cut environment. So that's very nice, especially if you want different settings. So we'll just hit OK here, and now we have our created cut environment. Hit OK, and now we have our cut environment selected up here on the top. And if you're doing a lot of cutting and you want to be able to view your cut path a little easier, on the bottom right here, you see the star. That's the selection area where you can see your cut path. We have a print and cut workspace that is designed just for that. So you can actually hit F4 or you can hit view and click print and cut, and then it'll change. You'll see here. So now you have your selection area is much larger. And if you're working with a ton of different images, you'll see all of your cut paths on the right-hand side here.
That's very helpful. So if you have cut files with a lot of intricate cutting paths, or if you want to completely ensure that certain areas of your job are rendering the right cut path, this larger cut workspace is very useful for being able to kind of visually QC that.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay, so to review, The cut queue essentially represents the physical device. You have one cut queue for as many cutters as you own. But the cut environment is a collection of all the different settings you might want to use for that cutter. So you can have multiple cut environments to accommodate different settings, and that would all be associated with that one cut queue.
Yep.
Very helpful. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, please contact us.